Sztanyo, Sztanyo, what is going on? Welcome to Team Sztanyo Live. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday today and a great week. We have so much to talk about, a lot of huge breaking news going on in terms of the plans and the development of Cincinnati, in terms of the banks and what's going to be happening with the skyline, what's going to be happening with energy downtown. And guess what? Politicians aren't agreeing about it. Two very different takes on this plan, and should it happen or not, and can we afford it or not? And we're going to dive into all that because it could be a great plan for the city, or it could be heading us into a financial crisis. Which one is it? We're going to talk about all that and much, much more tonight. Welcome in. Glad to have you guys here. As always, my name is Eric. If you're new here, welcome. Good to see you. Get a chance to talk about what's going on in Cincinnati news, living in Cincinnati, a lot of that and how it's relating to real estate and how that impacts you, whether you're looking to move here, whether you're thinking of buying a home here, selling a home here, investing here in Cincinnati. We like to talk about all those things, specifically the kind of news that's impacting you from a real estate standpoint and your pocketbook and what that matters. So very, very interesting. A lot of news breaking, a lot of development news breaking this week, not only the banks, but also up in Sharonville, in Mason, Ohio. I was seeing tweets or posts on X all this week where people were like, Cincinnati's leaving Columbus and Louisville in the dust with these plans. A lot of energy on X I saw this week. People really like the plans, or people really didn't like the plans, or people were like, it's not far enough. We need caps on Fort Washington Way. All kinds of things. So we're going to dive into all of that tonight. I'm excited. As always, leave some comments in the chat. Jump in here. This is where I get to interact with you, which is one of my favorite things to do all week. I just got finished showing a bunch of homes today all over town. A lovely couple who I would like to be friends with, I'm not going to lie, who's looking to move up here from Nashville, Tennessee. And very interesting conversations we got into as I was just trying to give them an overview of what Cincinnati is like compared to Nashville. And I know I've lived here in Cincinnati for 35 plus years, Northern Kentucky. In this area, I've lived on both sides of the river. And I also lived in Nashville. I went to college in Nashville, Tennessee at Lipscomb University, go Bisons. And they moved to Nashville about 2 years after I graduated. So about 20-ish years ago. And Nashville back then was a little bit sleepier. Right now, they're like, there are so many people here. It's crazy. The development, the growth, like all the Californians moved here, and it's like, we don't like it. We would like something different. And so we had some very interesting conversations today about Cincinnati. And I think that's going to, I'm very interested to see what that means in terms of the development in Cincinnati too. But some people, just so the developers and politicians or anyone else who's watching this, some people actually really, really like the idea of Cincinnati flying a little bit under the radar because they've been in LA or Seattle or Chicago or Nashville or Austin or Orlando or DC or these different cities. And they're like, you know what? I would like to actually take a breath. I'm okay if the city gets, looked over a little bit. And that was kind of what I was trying to explain to them was like, hey, this place is great, but like we typically from a national standpoint tend to get looked over a little bit. And locals here kind of like, we want respect, like we don't get any respect. And, but others who have been in other places where it's maybe a little bit more status driven, maybe a little bit more status seeking, they kind of look at Cincinnati and they're like, you know what? I love the idea of it being looked over, but that's neither here or there necessarily. It is actually really important. I think that is an important part of what this city is, because when this couple from Nashville got here, they're like, this place is great. Like, we love the architecture. We love these buildings. We love these different little pocket neighborhoods. We love the parks. We love the river. They even went to Skyline Chili and they love that. First timers. I couldn't believe it. I mean, most people, when they try Cincinnati Chili or Skyline for the first time, they're like, I don't know about that. Like, that's maybe it'll grow on me, but not right now. They were all in. So like they've done their research on the city and they're like, man, we want this to work out. And I might show you some of the homes we checked out today a little bit later in this live, because we saw some great homes today in the $1 million price point. We're going to look at some of the luxury sales as well and kind of what's going on in the market. And maybe we'll get to some of those homes if we have time, because some of them were not necessarily right for them in terms of they were getting to feel out the neighborhoods, whether Northern Kentucky or Mount Adams. We went over to Hyde Park. We ended up over in Anderson. So we were kind of checking out different places around town. getting a feel for it. And they're like, okay, we know what we're getting here and here and here. And I love doing that, by the way. It's one of my favorite things to do is to kind of just introduce people to the city when you're coming in and say like, okay, this is the advantages here. These are the advantages there. And by the way, if you're watching this, and you want a bit of an intro, we've got a free relocation guide that we created that gives you at least a high level overview, kind of breaks down the different neighborhoods, medium price points, schools, safety, amenities, things like that. That's in the description below. So if you guys want to grab that download for free, that is absolutely there for you. But tonight we've got some very, very exciting news. So let's jump over here into what's going on at the banks. We're going to start with what's happening, and then we're going to dive into the political response, both from city council and from the Hamilton County Commissioners, because it is very, very different. Okay. Like their response couldn't be more different. And beyond just their response, I want to kind of dive into, well, what does this mean? What does this mean for residents of Cincinnati itself? What does it mean for residents of Hamilton County? And why might there be some discrepancies between the two? Because maybe we all want growth to some extent, but who's footing the bill? I think that's really where the question comes down. Who's getting the advantages of all the growth and who's footing the bill? So we're going to get into all of that. I think it's very interesting. And so I spent a little time kind of digging into this week and trying to wrap my head around, man, why was there such a unique, different stance between these two groups? And I think it really just boils down to the incentive structure. So let's start with what's going on, because it is pretty exciting. Here's a bit of a photo. We're going to get into some of these takes. But here is a rendering. My favorite take on X this week. We'll get into this, but it was somebody highlighted this dad wearing a number 7 Bengals jersey. I don't know, maybe a little reminiscent of Boomer Esiason, and their child's got a Ellie De La Cruz 44 Reds jersey. But they zoomed in on this dad and they said, what's amazing about this is like, look at the slumped shoulders on this Bengals fan. This dad has seen some things and he's been through it. And I appreciated that. I got a good laugh out of that. All right, let's get into this article here. The new bank's plan calls for much taller buildings at downtown site. A new plan to redevelop the remaining lots at the banks, which I'm heading down to tonight, actually, to Moorline Lager House, will cost up to $800 million and calls for considerably taller structures than are currently there now, including 2 new high-rise residential buildings. I'm going to just pull this up really quick and refer back to it, a few times tonight, just so we know where we are talking about and we can kind of get a feel for it as we go through tonight. So when we're talking about the banks, we are talking about this area right by Great American Ballpark and all these kind of lots down here by the Ohio River up through Paycor Stadium, in even Heritage Bank Center, which this is a big topic that I continue to talk about on the channel. And as part of this discussion as well, is where are we going to get the new arena? So just for reference, and we'll circle back to this a little bit when we're talking about these different lots. But let's keep going on. So, okay. The plan, where are we? Sorry. All right. 2 new high-rise residential buildings. Residential, remember that phrase? We're going to talk about that quite a bit tonight. The plan emphasizes market rate residential development, which would take up 70 to 80% of the 2.5 million square feet of the new development. But it also would have retail, a new hotel, and potentially office space someday. Overall, it envisions finishing the banks over the next 15 years. So not right away, over 15 years. The plan contemplates 860 to 1,210 new housing units and up to 150 new hotel rooms, along with 60,000 to 80,000 square feet of retail and commercial space. The retail would be a mix of neighborhood-oriented and experiential, which would draw in visitors. For taxpayers, the development would require the completion of the central riverfront garage, which has hoisted the entire development out of the Ohio River's 500-year floodplain. The cost estimated at $30 million per block is not included in the overall cost projection. So we're talking about $800 million here, but that does not include raising the garage, these different garage pads basically up out of the floodplain. So again, going back to where we're at here, the banks, the problem with the banks is it's right by, like the great thing and the problem is it's right by the Ohio River, okay? And this river can flood. And it flooded so much in this last year that it went up these streets kind of into little downtown here. So you've got to raise everything up here. And it's $30 million to raise a block of this up, okay? So it's expensive. Now, it's really cool. Having stuff down here at the river is awesome. The Roebling Bridge is amazing. You know, if you're down here and you're on the Roebling, for example, and you're looking around, that's not exactly where I wanted to put that guy. Let me try that again. Let me move him. Okay, so here we're at Smale. It looks like not as nasty. This is beautiful down here, right? This is Smale Riverfront Park, part of the banks. This was all redesigned several years ago. I don't know what's going on with these photos. Where are we? It's like it time warps back here. That's really odd. Let me get them back to Smale. Okay. Anyway, we're going to continue on here. Here's right by Moorline. This is where I'm going down here tonight for a fundraiser, actually. But underneath all of this, underneath Moorline, underneath all of this is actually a garage, the Central Riverfront Garage. Okay. So all this has to be lifted up. But the areas we're kind of talking about building these spaces are right down here. All right, let's keep going. So traditionally, to build each successive phase of the bank's garage podium, the city and county split the costs. Let's hang on to that, okay? The city and county split the costs, which in recent years have not been paid for by either government's general tax revenue. Okay, I want to make a quick note there that this is supposed to be paid for by the governments, by the city, and by the county. They split the costs when they do a successive phase of the banks in the garage podium. And in recent years, neither has been paid by the tax revenue. So we're just going to throw that out there. That's a little important little tidbit here as we go on. All right. So with variations to this formula, the county funneled banks' garage revenues, because it owns them, the county owns them, toward the project, while the city kicked in tax increment financing, TIF. We're gonna come back to that phrase a lot too, which is revenue generated by the bank's development itself on top of state or federal grants the project receives. And then a little further explanation here. TIF funds are essentially property taxes that would normally go to the local governments that are instead diverted to public purposes within a TIF district, okay? So that's where they're getting money to do future developments. Is like, these property taxes should go to the local government, but instead they go into this bank to be used for future development in this specific district. Given economic conditions and the fact that Cincinnati rents continually lag behind construction costs for such construction, the high-rise residential of up to 24 stories contemplated likely will require taxpayer subsidy as well. Okay, so I'm slowing down on this and reading it slowly just because I want to make sure everyone's understanding the points here. New development for the banks, very excited. A project that never really was fully complete, was kind of dreamt up, is partially there, is partially great, but is not fully complete. And so the idea of a new plan and a new design for it and new buildings, new residents down there, kind of balancing it out, getting more of a taxpayer base down there, all very exciting. But what this is saying is like, okay, where's the money going to come from? It's got to come from the county and the city, neither of which are paying for the garages right now. And in order to put up these residential high rises, 24 stories potentially, which is very tall, we'll get into that, it's going to likely additionally require taxpayer subsidy as well. And as we get further along tonight and we talk about the clash between the city and the county, that's really where we're heading. It's like, well, which taxpayer is paying for this, right? So, and who gets to enjoy it and all those things. So we're going to, all right, we'll keep going one piece at a time, but these details are important. So in addition to the approval of any financial incentives, the plan will require zoning changes that will need approval from Cincinnati City Council. Such votes could come in early 2026. So as a reminder, also, we just had an election here in Cincinnati. We just had the mayor reelected, and we just had the city council elected as well. Completely Democrat city council. No Republicans got on, but they just got voted in. So now, like, today felt like a little bit of a rush. There was a lot of things going on. I didn't even get all the headlines on here, but another headline was that the city bought a property right across from Music Hall on the West End, which is a property that is the potential for the new arena. We'll get into that too. But there's a lot of things going on, is my point. But one thing I want to say here is, hey, there's some movement happening right away here. New zoning changes would need to be voted on by city council, but city council just got voted in. So they're like, these plans, kind of feels like these plans have been in the work. We got voted in. Boom, let's go. Let's roll this out. The plan was developed by the consultant team of Perkins and Will, MKSK Studios, Kohler Design, Nelson Nygaard, and HR&A Advisors. You got to be careful with that word. Not gonna lie. Yeah, just going to move on from that. A steering committee that included representatives of Hamilton County, the city of Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Reds, the Cincinnati Bengals, and other stakeholders oversaw the work. The city and county have agreed to work together to jumpstart development along the riverfront, which has been stalled since the COVID-19 pandemic began in 2020. The quick question here, what's going on? What do I think about the mayor reelection? I try not to get too political on this. You know, I'm just a lowly real estate agent. Okay. I try not to get too political. I just try to advocate for our city. I think what I saw in the mayoral candidate or the election there is, it didn't seem like a potential race. You know, I mean, in the primaries, the votes were like 80 or 85% going for Mayor Aftab. And so Corey Bowman was running against Aftab, and it's like, is there really a shot here? I was following Corey's, kind of his team a little bit on X, and I'm like, I don't even see a path. Like, how does this even happen? So anyway, mayor's reelected, and that's about all I'm going to say about that, because I don't need to get into too political on this channel. I'm just trying to read the tea leaves here. Okay, so the plan seeks to look at the long term, says Andrew Broderick, associate principal for Perkins and Will, who's one of the developers and designers here. We think more people can call the banks home. Okay, so that's another key I want you to focus in on. We feel this site is deserving of an iconic building. There's ability to inject more vibrancy. So what I wanted to focus in on is the idea of calling this place home. Okay, the key thing that the city council and the mayor really want in this development is they want more people living in the banks. Okay, they want more residential. They want between 800 to 1,200 different residences down there. Okay, let's keep going. If new tall buildings were constructed on 2 of the lots, they would not obstruct the city's iconic skyline. Buildings planner said the tallest structure at the banks is the former General Electric building, which is 10 stories. Let's go back here real quick. Let's head over to GE. Let's see if I can move my guy over there. How do I move him? Okay, so here we are down at the banks. Here's Radius, which is kind of some apartments here. Here is the GE building. So this is 10 stories. And when they're talking about the 2 iconic buildings, they're talking about this PNC building right here. And they're talking, well, I assume they're talking about Great American Ballpark, but Scripps is pretty iconic as well, these 3 buildings. And so when you're looking at the skyline, and in fact, this is something I was discussing with these clients who were coming in from Nashville today. They're like, man, there's just something about when you're coming around from Kentucky and you're driving north. The guy who was here, he was a musician. He's traveled to a lot of cities. He's like, when you come around, I've always just liked Cincinnati because, and I was like, the reveal's pretty great, right? And he's like, yeah, the reveal is great. And anyone who's lived here or ever driven up I-71, 75 North, you come around that bend, the Cut in the Hill in Cummington, and boom, there's Cincinnati, right? There's the skyline greeting you. And so part of what they're talking about in terms of height down here is if you put a building down here in the banks that's 24 stories tall, not 10, which is what this building is right here, are you going to block, kind of that reveal? Let's see if I can kind of get turned around here. When you're talking about this skyline right here, let me bring this down. Is it going to block like that reveal, right? So if you put up a big, massive 24-story building right here, I am not showing you guys anything. Sorry about that. Okay. So what I was trying to show you is like, here's the GE building. Okay. Here's kind of one iconic building of that skyline. Here's Scripps building, and here's another one. And those, when you're looking at the skyline, when you're coming in from Cincinnati, those two buildings kind of like bookend the skyline. It frames it up really well, And so if you put a new big building in front that blocks others, that's kind of what you're talking about from like, should we do that? Should we not do that? So that's kind of one concern here in terms of the height of any new buildings that's going in to these lots. And in terms of these lots, I believe, let's see if I can kind of zoom over here again. What we're talking about, you see these garages that are like just not built up, right? These are the spaces of the banks. That's like, what's going on here? Like, why is this not done? Why is this just like empty? Okay. So these are kind of the things that are being discussed, like these lots. Can you build something up right here? Okay. The tallest, so you don't want to block the iconic buildings. The tallest structure at the banks is the former GE building, which is 10 stories. The topography and the overall height of those premier downtown buildings, the icons of Cincinnati, are still preserved, Broderick said. If you're coming down from Covington toward the river, which we were just talking about, I would contend that actually the views are enhanced because rather than having some surface lots, you have new buildings in the foreground. So he's like, the designer developer wants to build the building. Okay. So big surprise there. But he's saying like, look, we can make this better. It will still look good. We're not hurting the overall, iconic view of Cincinnati. Is the higher density contemplated needed to make this financially worth it? So that's the big question, right? Is the higher density contemplated needed to make this financially worth it? So they're talking about more people downtown. Do you actually need that to make this work? And he says, I think so, yes. The new Bengals lease with the county at Paycor Stadium allows for taller buildings, said Phil Beck, the bank's project executive. So we've been tracking all of this, but that's another part of this, which is that, when the Bengals redid the lease, they had a lot of control over the heights of these buildings down there because they were protecting the stadium and the views to it. Well, one of the things that got renegotiated in that lease was being able to talk about the heights of these buildings down here, and that the Bengals themselves didn't have such a stranglehold on the heights of those buildings. So that's all these have been pieces to kind of get to where we're at right now. The limitations in the old lease really prevented development, said Beck, who noted the old lease had to be amended in order to build the Andrew J. Brady Music Center taller than the old lease allowed. That's why it's important that the Bengals have participated on the steering committee. They've been in lockstep with us this entire calendar year. The Banks has a hotel already, the AC Marriott. Another hotel makes sense, and the market can sustain it because of all the events at the Banks in most stadium anchor districts support at least 2 hotels, said Mark Kubizik, a director of HR&A advisors. The AC Marriott performs better than average of the current downtown hotels, according to the planning team. It's the only one down there, really, and it's newer, and it's got a pretty cool rooftop bar restaurant up there. So yeah, like it does pretty well. And there's only one. So it's like, yeah, this could support more when you've got the Reds games, when you've got Paycor, when you've got an arena potentially. So this is a project that's an ambitious project, he said. The plan also floats the idea of a permanent Ferris wheel in front of the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center, anchored by a new plaza that will replace the grass field and the Sing the Queen City sign. There was a temporary wheel at that site before the pandemic. Let me see if I can bring that up really quick. Yeah, here's a photo of that. Let me see if I can get a picture. Cincinnati Skyline Ferris wheel. I thought it was actually pretty cool looking when it was there. You guys can kind of see what this image, looks like when the Ferris wheel was there. So they're thinking of doing, oh my gosh, Facebook. It's the worst. You guys can see this here. Okay. So that's, I don't know if they're talking about a permanent Ferris wheel there, but it is like when that's lit up, it's pretty cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I think that is kind of a cool look to the city. The plan calls for taller buildings near the center of the development, showing an architectural progression from Paycor Stadium and Great American Ballpark. It gives you an aspirational vision, a top side of the market, Kubizik said. So are they going to get all these things in there? Probably not, or at least maybe over time. But it's an aspirational vision, and I am for seeing aspirational vision. So here's what we're looking at here. And we'll get into these details a little bit more. Everything that you see that is kind of this yellowish green color, that is a residential building that they want to get in here. Over here off of Walnut Street, this is on site 1, site 24, site 25. Then you've got a new hotel going in on the north side of Paycor Stadium and a new potential office. This is like a mixed retail spot, green roof, open elevated green roof on the top. And the red blocks here are different retail spaces going in. And then let's see here. Is this the new? Here's the Brady Center. It's already there. The Icon Stage. I think this is the new plaza. Or is that? No, that's already there. I don't know which new plaza they're talking about. Maybe it's here. And maybe that is the Ferris wheel right there in front of the Freedom Center. I think that's what they're saying. So this is Moorline, I believe. That's Roebling Way. Or maybe that's Moorline over there. So I'm getting a little lost here. All right, let's keep heading down here. We'll look at some more of these photos here in a minute. So here's what the plan calls for. The plan calls for the following: a high-rise residential on lot 1, retail and parking totaling 24 stories. So lot 1 right here is where they're talking about the 24 stories. Lot 4 would be office, retail, and parking totaling 8 stories. Lot 13 is where the hotel would be. That would be 11 stories. This lot has no garage podium right now. Lot 1 also needs a garage podium. So again, $30 million for each one of those. Lot 24, which is right here, that would be a mid-rise and high-rise residential, retail, and parking totaling 24 stories. So they're actually saying both of those buildings would be 24 stories, at least in this like ideal situation here, or their big vision. The central riverfront government at this lot will have to be retrofitted at a multi-million-dollar cost in order to have a 24-story tower. The current podium supports up to 11 stories, so you have to retrofit that. This lot already has a garage podium finished in 2016 and vacant ever since, and likely will be the first to be built, since at least they've already got started on it. And then lot 25 would be mid-rise residential, retail, and parking totaling 11 stories. This lot needs a garage podium. So you need garage podium, modified garage podium, garage podium, garage podium, okay, to get out of the floodplain. Some of the residential could be for sale condos, but they likely will not be the first residential units built, Kubizik said. Local developers beyond the Cincinnati Center City Development Corps have rarely built new for-sale multifamily homes because of the pre-sale requirements banks have in order to get them financed. There are products on the Kentucky side. They have sold quite well. So what he's talking about, which I've brought up on the channel as well, are these places in Ovation, which is these condos have sold for $1 million plus, 2-bedroom condos, and you've got views of downtown Cincinnati from here. So if you look at these boardwalk residences right here, they're creating this boardwalk. It's going to have kind of looks like this. Okay, so these have done really well. They've sold very strongly. And obviously they're looking at that, thinking about, can we build something like this down here? And so he's saying, hey, those have sold really well. Adding an Ohio side product that achieves similar margins would work. But you're talking about $1 million plus condominiums. So condominiums at the Ovation development in Newport, which offer panoramic views of Cincinnati's downtown, are listed at $1 million or more. But the banks likely will need a wider variety of amenities and upgraded public spaces first, he added. And that's interesting to me because you've got you've got the amenities of the restaurants, the stadiums, the bars, all of that at the banks. What you don't have and what Ovation does have, let's shift back to the map here a little bit around Ovation and what's being built up here. You do have another concert area, but you got Megacore Logistics and where is it? I'm trying to find. You've got a health center here as well. And so I want to say St. Elizabeth is over here. Primary care, Newport Ovation. There it is. Okay, I don't know why that wasn't showing up. So you've got these physicians right here too. So when you're selling $1 million condos, these might be more empty nesters. These might be people that have a little bit more money. So having the healthcare right next door, that's a big win for Newport. And then you've also got the concert with Megacore and some other, you've also got Newport on the Levee right here as well, and some restaurants here. So, but this was just an interesting line to me of saying you actually need more amenities before you could sell the higher end condos downtown. I'm actually, that was a little bit surprising by me. You need to build the right kind of place so people see this as real estate investment. And maybe part of that is just like, we want this whole plan developed to help people sell the vision of it. And maybe it's because the condos on the Cincinnati side are going to be more than $1 million. Maybe they're 1.25 or 1.5 or 2. I don't know. The planners also were asked whether the city and county should hire a master developer, as they did for the early phases of the banks. And by the way, great job on that, because the master developer of that plan put some things into place in terms of Fort Washington Way that can be finished out now, that decades later, because they had the forethought and they had a master plan kind of figured out. So I would be for seeing a master developer as well, taking charge while presumably bringing in smaller companies to finish the work. To get the project done will require the city and county working together with a unified goal and picking the right development team. The market is ripe for more. I'm laughing because we're going to get to this next article in a minute where you're like, ooh, okay. People want it both locally, and the market is ripe for more urban downtown development. People want it both locally and nationally. People are erring toward more entertainment, more experiential living. The banks provides that in a more deep, concentrated way. So I agree with that. Like, I'm very, very interested in this plan. I think this is very exciting. There's a lot of energy here. But the question is, can the city and the county figure it out together? So that's what we're going to look at here next. And I'm very curious what your thoughts are. Specifically, guys, if you're watching this and commenting later, if you live within the limits of the city of Cincinnati, or if you live in Hamilton County, or both, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, okay? And your take on both council and the county. So, okay, here we go. Let's bring up this next article, because this is why I did the thumbnail with the buildings on fire. And the idea of, is there a potential crisis here? So here's the headline. It's been 25 years. Maybe it needs to be 25 more. Stark division on new banks plan from the city and county. That's an interesting quote. When you've got all this excitement about this brand new development, and then the headline on the quote is, maybe we should wait 25 more years. So let's see what the heck is going on here. The reactions by Cincinnati City Council members and Hamilton County commissioners on a new plan. And by the way, shout out Chris Wederick for your reporting on all this from Biz Journals. Appreciate that. The reactions by Cincinnati City Council members and Hamilton County commissioners on a new plan to build out the rest of the banks with buildings up to 24 stories could not have been more different. Okay, that's where we're starting. City Council members, 2 weeks after waging a successful re-election battle in which most members campaigned on building more housing and density, were enthusiastic about the proposal, which would cost $800 million, not counting the garage podium fixes at about $30 million a pop, and see buildings taller than anything currently existing at the riverfront site, and asked about some of its finer details. County commissioners, by contrast, either had pointed questions or were outright hostile to the plan. All right, let's keep going here. All are Democrats. Okay, so city council and county commissioners, all Democrats. No Republicans here. This is not necessarily, partisan. It's completely partisan. I guess it's all one part. Okay, they say if you build it, they will come, said commissioner. So whenever you hear commissioner, that's county. Whenever you hear council member, that's city. And Commissioner Stephanie Summerall Dumas, quoting the film Field of Dreams, I believe we need to put something on these lots, but this is not a priority for me. Okay. Dumas, who will likely be the key vote on any requested county approval of a plan, said she was not sure the height was appropriate. The height was appropriate. So, okay, interesting. Not necessarily is the plan appropriate, it's the height. It's been 25 years since the main bank's project started. Maybe it needs to be 25 more, is what she said. Commissioner Denise Driehaus also registered some concern about the density contemplated. She wondered whether it would block daylight to the ground level public plazas and areas contemplated. Now, I'm not saying that's not something to consider. I think that's maybe a little bit lesser, but we've been talking about the Hyde Park Square development as well there. And funny enough, the issue at question there was also a height issue. And current residents very much do not want a higher hotel to go in there, which I get. There are zoning laws, or like follow the zoning laws. But, funny enough, here in Cincinnati as well, or downtown Cincinnati with the banks, we're also talking about height issues because it might block daylight to the ground level public plazas. Yes, tall buildings block daylight. Okay, Commissioner D. Yes, it's a little disconcerting, honestly. It's so different than what's been developed to this point, Driehaus said. Yes, new development is different. I think commissioners might be in a tough spot here because of the budget. So I'm giving them a bit of a hard time, but I think they're taking these positions because they don't have a lot of money. Although she later issued a statement calling the plan a strong foundation to finally complete the bank. So as I'm reading between the lines here, we're going to keep going through this. I think the commissioners actually want to see the plan happen. At least most of them. But they also have to represent their constituents and their taxpayers and who's paying for this and what are they getting. So let's keep going and we'll try to unpack that a little bit more. City council members Mika Owens, Evan Nolan, Mark Jeffries, and Seth Walsh, on the other hand, were effusive. I am absolutely beyond excited about where we are, Owens said, go big or go home. We have to get this right. Nolan noted the banks basically has been stalled for the past 5 years. It's now time to shift to a growth mindset. For me, the bigger the better, Nolan said. Walsh wondered whether the buildings should be even bigger. Like, not big enough. Go bigger. I love that. Like, the commissioners are like, I don't know. There's going to be a shadow. And the city council is like, bigger, make it bigger. Okay, the banks is one of the last frontiers to get aggressive in a space that's already built tall, Walsh said, referring to downtown. 11 stories down there looks tiny. This isn't like a neighborhood business district. Are we being aggressive enough? So let's take a look at this a little bit, this photo here. So again, the GE building is right here. That's 11 stories right now. And yeah, compared to the rest of downtown, it does look tiny. The question in play here is if you're throwing up 24 stories, what does that mean? Does it fit? I'm kind of for this. Like, I don't think this looks weird. I think it's cool progress as well. I just like how, I'm just noting how the different strong takes here are fun to me. It's now time to shift to a growth mindset. For me, the bigger the better. The banks is one of the last. Yeah. Are we being aggressive enough? Let's go through here. So here's sad Bengals fan, sad Bengals dad. That will forever be sad, heavy-shouldered Bengals dad, carrying the weight of this franchise and Joe Burrow injuries on his back. Here's another look at some of these buildings. And this is future development. So they're kind of like, let's make these bigger so these don't look so big in comparison to these other smaller city buildings. We kind of went through this in the other article in terms of the hotel right here, residential, kind of mixed use, and I forgot what that one was. Here is the plaza, I'm guessing. What do we got here? Banks Center, Riverfest. Yeah, so we kind of went through some of these already. Just a few different photos there. Study area, and then here is like, okay, this would be future growth. You would build, these are not what's being presented right now, but this is like, hey, in the future, the PNC building and Great American Tower don't have to be the only big buildings in our skyline, right? And I think this gets to some of the idea, which is like, we want progress, we want growth, and we'll get into more of this in the article. When there's more growth, where there's more energy, when there's more people here, then you can think bigger. You can dream bigger about the city as well. Now, ironically enough, as I mentioned before, some of the people who I was showing homes today were moving to Cincy because we like it quaint. But I do think, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so I'm for the progress here. I just don't, maybe don't send all of California here like Nashville and Austin is. Okay, so some of you Californians, if you're from Tennessee and California, I mean, some of you can come. Just not all of you, right? Let's see, where were we? Okay, yeah. Let me get back here. All right, so Banks project executive Phil Beck, who oversees the public assets that allow for private investment, namely the Central Riverfront Garage, acknowledged the concern. Phase 1 is underbuilt, he said. This plan levels it out. You said it, Phil, Walsh responded. I like Walsh's energy here. You can feel that when you walk around. Mark Kubizik, Mark, our guy again from HR&A Advisors, said they met with developers about the potential for 24-story towers on the Banks. They got a little tight, Kubizik said, adding that he believed developers were reacting to the current market conditions of high interest rates and rising construction costs. So he's saying developers were like getting a little tight in their aggressiveness to develop because of interest rates, because of costs, construction costs. But he added, if conditions improve and the city and county improve the public infrastructure, developers might want to take the cap off the 24 stories contemplated. So saying like, yeah, you might want to go bigger. Jeffries asked who the target demographic is for the 860 to 1,210 new residential units. He said, typically younger professionals who enjoy having a lively environment. You do see empty nesters. You see season ticket holders for the Reds and Bengals, Kubizik responded. People who like being close to Smale Riverfront Park. That is what we see nationally. So young professionals, empty nesters, season ticket holders. Commissioner, so that's kind of the target demo here. Commissioner Alicia Reese registered a litany of complaints. Yes, she did. So here's the bullet list. And she complained about the county did not have an African-American representative on the steering committee overseeing the planning team's work. Having a Ferris wheel in front of the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center was disrespectful, and that people were twerking in front of the center at major events. Okay. The county is kind of broke right now. Okay. Maybe a little bit more legit. Suburbanites might not want to go to businesses where there isn't free parking. People who want to own a condo where there is late night partying. Let me go back to this one real quick. Suburbanites might not want to go to businesses where there isn't free parking. Yes. Okay. So again, the reason I want to stop and point this one out is like council members are not necessarily thinking about suburbanites because a lot of Cincinnati suburbanites don't live in the city of Cincinnati. When you look at the map of Cincinnati. Okay. So actually let me pull that up. Cincinnati. When it comes to political voting and tax base, okay, let me bring this up because I'm sure many of you guys out there don't understand this. So this like weird shape right here that's in red, dotted in red, that is the city of Cincinnati, okay? And I know when you look at the map, you might think that, Anderson Township, and Loveland and Indian Hill and Milford and Blue Ash and Deer Park and Madeira and Marymount and Kenwood and, Redding, Wyoming and Westchester and Mason and all these places are Cincinnati, but they actually are not from a voting and from a tax basis. Okay. So that's where we're starting to see some discrepancy here when you have the county commissioner of Hamilton County, Ohio, bam, okay, which includes the city of Cincinnati, but also includes a lot of these suburbs around. All right. And going as far out west as Harrison to the border of Indiana here. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about who are the constituents. This is the county commissioner's constituent base, right? And this is the city council and the mayors. All right. So I think that's maybe helpful for people who are like, what's going on here? Like, why are they fighting about this? Okay. People who want to own a condo where there's late night partying, public plazas don't generate revenue. Only rich people will be able to afford to live there and have views of the river. The county has stadium obligations over the next 15 years. The projected timeline for finishing the banks, including the $350 million renovation of Paycor Stadium, which we've covered on this channel, and potential improvements to Great American Ballpark, which they're going to be asking for soon as well. So she's saying, hey, look, we can't afford it. And she says, also, I don't support the country club group. I don't want to have a country club group making the decisions on public investment. Reset of the steering committee. The timing is off to be running with the banks right now. I don't know how we can afford all of it. Okay. And, part of what I think is going on here with Commissioner Reese is she represents, her constituency is going to be a little bit more urban residents for sure. And so she's definitely cautious of people that are outside of that, right? She's trying to represent her constituency, and I get that. Traditionally, to build each successive phase of the bank's garage podium, the city and county split the cost, which in recent years have not been paid for by either government's general tax revenue. So there it is again, which is like, hey, we've got to pay for the garage, and neither of you, city or county, are paying for those. With variations to this formula, the county funneled bank's garage revenues it owns toward the project, while the city kicked in tax increment financing, revenue generated by the bank's development itself, on top of state or federal grant the project receives. TIF funds are essentially property. We talked about that already. Councilman Jeff Cramerdine acknowledged some public subsidy to get new residential mid and high-rise tower bills, with TIF money a potential source. So again, I ask you, residents of Cincinnati, residents of Hamilton County, how do you feel about a public subsidy going towards building these, residential spaces and building out more of the banks? It's a tough ask, when your money's going towards Paycor and, when there's a lot of potholes in the street. It's like, yeah, I get it. There are some neighborhoods that are lacking right now. And, can we really afford this? So ideally, we'd have a cost structure for all these lots. He said, Walsh said, other cities will not have the chance Cincinnati has when it comes to completing the banks. We have an amazing opportunity to create the heart of downtown again. Height is not something we should be scared of. So there you have it. Like, there is, the city, the city and the county are kind of very, very different here. And I just want to point out a little bit of like why this is. Like, what are the big differences between the two and why they're kind of having this argument? I think a good kind of caption of this, I was trying to write this out a little bit, but I think the city sees the banks as Cincinnati's big leap forward. Okay. They're like, if we can do this, we put ourselves on the map more, there's more growth that comes from it. And the county sees this as a financial cliff. They're like, no, pump the brakes. We don't have the money. We've got other priorities right now. We've got other infrastructure we need to pay for. This is a hazard. This is trouble ahead. And that's why this vote is kind of exploding a little bit, or this fight, I should say. There's a difference between the two. So, the city, if we're talking about incentives and what I think each of these groups really care about, the city of Cincinnati needs housing. They need it badly. That's why the plan last year went out of oh shoot, why am I blanking on this right now? The residential, what's it called? It's changing the zoning in Cincinnati so you can get more density in the city. Connected communities is the name of it. And they need more housing, they need more density, they need more walkability because they need a growing tax base. And so this plan gives them 860 to 1,200 new units. It gives you taller buildings. As someone who just joined the council or the mayor who is very ambitious, it counts as a political win, because they ran on this. They ran on bringing more residential to the city. And it's a visible, defining kind of legacy project for anyone who's on council right now. You can say, we got the banks over the finish line. So it's a political win. It's a housing win. It's a downtown revitalization win. So it makes a lot of sense why they want that. And then also, as we mentioned, the city benefits directly from the tax increment financing. So there'd be property taxes from the development. There'd be earnings from that goes into the TIF. And that a lot of that can kind of be money flowing into the city's budget. So taller, more unit, more taxes, a stronger downtown budget. That's why members are saying things like go big or go home, or we should go bigger. Like, we got to get this right. So council is really incentivized to grow the tax base, especially downtown. And I think, they're thinking about the earnings tax downtown. They're also thinking about there's more workers probably downtown office workers, building out the riverfront entertainment districts, getting new housing units. I came across this stat this week, but this was pretty mind-blowing to me. But the city depends on earning tax for 70% of its revenue. I'm going to say that again. The city depends on earning tax for 70% of its revenue. And so that's why connected communities, that's why, these commercial buildings have been transitioned into residential, have gotten the green light because they want more residents downtown. And they really kind of think that if you can do that, if you build the downtown, this is kind of the general plan. You build downtown, you grow revenue. And then if there are some of these pocket neighborhoods that have been overlooked, and maybe that's Avondale or Bond Hill or Walnut Hills even, you put the investment in the place that can be the revenue generator where the money could be dispersed to the different communities throughout the city. I think that's the general plan. Now, can there be corruption in that? Yeah, of course. It's like, it's politics and development and all that stuff too. But like, do you want to see growth, or do you want to see empty garage parking lots that have been sitting there for 10 years? Right. And so like, yes, there should be question marks about how to pay for this thing, but yeah, that's what the city is looking for. Now, the county, on the other hand, they are, their concerns are fundamentally are probably more financial and political, not philosophical. That's why I think you see Commissioner Driehaus say, like, fundamentally, it's a good plan, but are the buildings too high? Like, that wasn't a whole lot of pushback from her, like Alicia Reese had. So the county, here's some of the responsibilities that they have, right? They've got $350 million for the Paycor renovation that's coming up. Potential growth at American Ballpark, improvements that's coming up. So we haven't gotten into those talks yet, but those are coming. There's other debt obligations stretching 10 to 15 years out right now. They're already pretty financially stretched. Commissioner Reese literally said the county is kind of broke right now. And so when you're talking about an $800 million project, but it's more than that, $30 million per garage podium. And a lot of those need to be built up, and our construction costs really going to stay the same. Like, so the county, they manage the garage. The city and county are split. The county funnels garage revenue to it. And they're getting pressure from different constituencies. So the city council answers to urban residents, to renters, to downtown businesses, to pro-density groups. The county commissioners also have to answer to suburban votes, to higher income homeowners, and people also who care about parking, congestion, taxes, spending. Reese is speaking, she mentioned suburbanites and the country club group and all that stuff as well. So, the city thinks overall downtown must grow up, taller, denser, more vibrant. The county thinks we got to manage risk. We got to protect taxpayers, and we got to avoid big commitments. So that's kind of where the tension is coming from, and we'll see where it goes. Again, I'm curious what you guys think. All right, guys, I got to wrap up here pretty quick because, like I said, I'm heading to a fundraiser tonight. That's why I'm an hour early versus the 5 o'clock we've been doing. Real quick here. Let's see. Gosh, I'm going to have to hit these for future weeks. But City of Mason approved a landmark zoning reform. There's a $75 million development plan. So this is outside of the city of Cincinnati now, right? I just kind of showed you those boundaries. So here's Sharonville. I wanted to hit this as well in terms of luxury home sales in October. Just some of the highlights. Cincinnati's top 10 luxury home sales totaled $27.1 million in October. At $5 million, a $5 million Indian Hill estate topped luxury home sales for the month. Overall, home sales increased 2.5% with median price rising. And I went and saw a few homes today. I just want to shout these out real quick. This is a beautiful home. This is over in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, kind of right across the street from the Crestview Hills Town Center. So you're right next to shopping. This was a gorgeous home. I'm not going to lie. Entered into this home, and sometimes you go into homes and you're like, this is not worth the price. This one I walked in, I was like, this is a beautiful community, and this home feels great, charming, really well done finishes. The kitchen was adorable with the blue and the selections, the tile, the fireplaces. Like, this was a great home. So if you're interested in something really charming on the Kentucky side of the river, reach out to us. We can get you a tour of this one, 12 Ross Moyne Drive in Fort Mitchell. Saw a couple others. Saw this one in Mount Adams, brand new home. This one was also great. Very well built. Beautiful fireplace. Again, it went up, and so you got to be willing to climb stairs on this one. There's a lot of stairs, and Mount Adams in particular is kind of a vertical kind of neighborhood. So just be ready for that. But this was really cool. The kitchen was gorgeous. I don't remember I feel like the filters on this make this feel more green than it was. It didn't feel that green in person. But this deck on the top, which I want to show you, getting past the bedroom, like all the finishes were really great in this home as well. There was there's kind of this karaoke room. And then you had this deck that had beautiful views of the woods. So you kind of had some privacy out back. And then if you looked out to the south, which you can't really see great here, but you had views of the Ohio River as well. This was a really great spot. And so if you're hosting, you could really enjoy that spot. Really enjoyed this home as well. This is at $1.37 million, 1000 Paradrome Street in Cincinnati. Again, if you're interested in that, would love to show you too. I really like that home. Next one up, we showed in Hyde Park, which totally different feel from Mount Adams. A little bit more family friendly. This was right next to All Park. Another beautiful home, right at $1 million. It's 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 27 square feet, and very, very charming. New cherry floors throughout. On the first floor, this fireplace was absolutely gorgeous. This one, there's a little bit of trade-offs in terms of the new construction and the space that you're getting. This one felt like a little bit more choppier because the home was built, I'm trying to remember. I want to say in the 1930s. I could be wrong on that. And so, the rooms aren't quite as big. It was a little bit harder to understand the layout and the floor plan, although I think they added that on here, the floor plan. But a lot of space, a lot of storage. This awning in the back was rotates, so you get shade and you can open it up, which is really beautiful. But the street itself, you walk out on the street and you kind of look around and you're like, man, Hyde Park is awesome. Like there's a reason why so many people want to live here. It just feels cozy. It feels charming. It feels like a neighborhood, like a community, right? That people care about this place. And it was awesome. So some trade-offs maybe in that you're not getting new construction, but other trade-offs in that the community is fantastic. So that was 3246 Observatory. And again, a beautiful home, $1 million home, like gorgeous, but different than the brand new construction that we saw in Mount Adams. Last one we went and saw was out in Anderson, Shadow Ridge by Red Knot Custom Homes. They're building a full neighborhood out here in Anderson Township, right off a 4-mile road, very private. You're getting wooded lots. Every home in this neighborhood is custom, starting around 650, going up to $1 million or more. They've got a few that are kind of finishing up. They got some more lots for sale. The home we went and saw was absolutely gorgeous. And Red Knot Homes is often featured in Cincinnati's Homerama, which is our kind of premier home show in the area. And they win a lot of awards. Like the quality is really, really strong. This home, again, as soon as you walk in the door, you're like, man, yep, this is a great home. They did a fantastic job. Had a gas fireplace. The kitchen and the design choices were just all like beautiful, very tasteful, lovely, lovely, lovely home. And so I can't really recommend. It was this home right here, but some of these homes, they're all custom built. So this whole neighborhood is really going to be really beautiful. There's going to be construction over the next few years. I want to say they've built out 10 to 11 homes so far in the community. And that is, let me see here. Whoops, did I close it out? I think I did. Let me just show you where that one is. So right here, east side of the city, you're in Anderson Township, so you're getting Forest Hill schools, and very, very, very easy pop down 4-mile road to get on I-275 and head into downtown. You're also right by the racetrack. You're by Belterra Park Racing. You're by Riverbend Music Center, and they are building out where Coney Island was here. We talked about this last week. They're building out a brand new premier outdoor concert theater right over here. It's going to be state of the art. So this is, it feels very private, feels very quiet here, and yet you are from GABP, which is my kind of go-to. Let's not walk it. Let's drive it. You are 17 minutes, and this is during rush hour. That's 5 o'clock. 17 minutes to downtown Cincinnati, Great American Ballpark from that spot. So again, if you're interested in that neighborhood as well, that was my first time being out there and seeing it for the first time. I'm going to vouch for it. It was great. Beautiful homes by Red Knot Homes. So there's a few different, what was really fun about today was sharing kind of the feel and the history and the spirit of Cincinnati with these guests, these clients who are in from Nashville, and also checking out these different neighborhoods, Fort Mitchell to Mount Adams to Hyde Park to Anderson Township, all very different feels and all really cool options in all these places. And they're just trying to figure out, at this point in life and the age of their daughter, like what's best for them right now. So I love doing that. That's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, that's please reach out. We'd love to work with you at Team Sztanyo. So I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Like I said, I'm heading to a fundraiser tonight for Storyform Life. If you guys are in the Cincinnati area, you know anything about that ministry, it's pretty remarkable. It changed my wife and I's life forever. So we're going to go head out to that and support it. And appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to like, subscribe. If you haven't already, share this with somebody who you think would like it. And I appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Have a great evening.